Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is Spirit Journey, and today is Friday. Wow. Friday, or I'm sorry, September 4, 2020. Yeah, that anniversary is around the corner. Yep, September 11th. Well, how many years would that be now? 19 years. Yeah, yeah, it would be 19 years on the 11th of that fateful day. Can't believe that it's that long. I remember the first anniversary. Boy, well, that just popped in my mind as I said what day it is today, September 4, and it's Friday. Yeah, the time, as you see, is 5:15 a.m. I've been up now for close to an hour, I would say. I like these times of the day because I'm relaxed. I'm with my crew, yeah, my little babies, my little doggy woggy, my furry friends are sleeping. I think two of them are under the bed, and one is by my side. Yeah, I like this time of the day because I like looking at the window. I love looking at the lights. It's very relaxing, and my mind um, thinks on different things. These are really interesting times. I would have never, I think if a psychic would have told me what would have happened this year, I wouldn't believe it. As I woke up today, I know I was dreaming, but I don't remember. I know it had to do with family members. I think my parents actually, but I just don't remember. But I started thinking about my father who passed away 11 years ago. He was in the teaching field, and he moved up the ladder. And so I want to talk a little bit about him, just about him as an individual, a black man, a dark-skinned black man, very tall, big boned. He looked like Rosie Greer, but darker. And just what it's like to be a black person living in New York City, of West Indian parentage. He was born and raised here, very Americanized, and the different factions that happen here, and how some of us in the black community, we stay stuck. And I'm very confused. What will wake us up? What will have us get back our sanity? That's what I was thinking this morning. And that's why I'm doing this video. And it just baffles me about some of the people who view my videos. My videos, I think they use the term shadow ban. Now, I've had this channel for quite a while, not as long as some channels, but it's out there. It's consistent. I have a lot of content. I have over 1,000 videos. I don't have just 4 or 5 minute videos. I mean, I have some of those short ones, but my videos are very detailed. And I try to put out interesting content. And I speak from my heart. I don't have a script. And a lot of times I might even forget what I was going to talk about. I'm in the middle of a sentence and sometimes I just forget. I get distracted. But I want to speak from my heart. And that's what this channel is about. It's not telling you what you want to hear. It's telling you and speaking to you and sharing my ideas, my thoughts, as a means of waking us up, having us think on the next level. Some channels are there to entertain you, and so they use a lot of potty language. And yes, they do. They seem to do very well on the black channels. And I'm disappointed. Now, if that's how someone talks naturally, then so be it. But I feel that it's designed, the more potty mouth, the more firm they are with you, the more you seem to like it. And it reminds me of what's really like, you don't like gentle instruction because many of you still have a slave mind and you need a slave driver to push you. But that's not where I come from. I mean, that's not my mindset. I think my nature is a nurturer. I do not have any children, but I have a very keen sense of protection, like like a little hen wants to protect the little chicks. You know, I have such a drive to protect others. And I think sometimes I might be misread as someone who might be too, patronizing. And that is far from me, my intent. But I see how sometimes I could be misread. But what's motivating me is that I don't want people to have to go through what I went through in life. That is my motive. That's what drives me. And I thank you, viewers, who are here with the ride. You know, you're riding with me, and you understand me. And you know that I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm here to enlighten and to enlighten myself. And when you're not able to find a teacher, you have to become your own teacher and to help others. My desire is to help others. And what's funny is that my father wanted me to get into the teaching field, and I rebelled. I didn't get along with them for various reasons, but he was a good teacher when he when he was in the teaching mode. That's his gift. As I woke up this morning, and then my mind started drifting, thinking about him. So I think I might have been dreaming about him. And he worked in the school system. He started up the ladder. Again, his parents are from the Caribbean. His father was a Crucian from the island of St. Croix. That's part of the U.S. Virgin Islands, for those of you who don't know. And hello there, you Crucians out there who may hear this video. And his mother was from Antigua, and she moved to the island of St. Croix. But the two parents did not know each other when they came to the U.S. And it was a troubled household. A lot of kids. People back then in the 1920s and 30s, they had people had children, and they had a lot of children. But anyway, my father, I don't know what got him into the field, but he started out in the art field. He was top of his class. Well, he was either the number 2 graduate or the number 3 graduate in his high school. And he was in an integrated high school in New York City, in Manhattan. I think it was a school in Manhattan. Yeah, he was born and raised in Manhattan. That's in New York City, the heart of the city. And many of those people were other children of immigrants from all over the world. When you look at his yearbook. And I was surprised. I thought there would be all black people, but no. New York City, back then in New York City, was highly integrated, a lot of everything. This is public school. And I didn't know that he had all these accolades on his yearbook cover. I mean, on the yearbook, you know, when you have your face and then what things that he was involved in. I had no idea. This was the first time. It was like a photocopy of his yearbook picture. I said, wow. But he got into City College. City College is in Harlem, on I think 135th Street, around Central Harlem, in the heart of Harlem. And Harlem, people see Harlem as a black city, but actually it's an integrated. It has a lot of everything. City College, and City College back then, that was considered a poor man's Harvard. It was one of the top city, what do you call it, public schools. You know, it wasn't a private university or college. And he went there, and he studied fine art, and then he got his teaching. He became a teacher. So I think he got his Bachelor's of Fine Arts, and then he got his master's in the Teachers College, and then he got his postmaster's degree in administration. And what I was impressed about was that he got them quickly. Now, at this time, when he met my mom in college, in undergraduate school. My mother went to the same college. Yeah, back then, in the early 50s, late 40s, black people in New York City went to college. They were hardworking. They saved their money. And also on my mother's side, they are also immigrants from the West Indies. But back then, you know, the people followed the basic career path. They went to school. My mother went to parochial school. But her high school, she went to a regular high school, but her early beginnings, she went to Catholic school. And my father always went to public school. So people were producing, you know, intelligent people. They were able to read and write. Okay. And the public schools, the high schools were good schools. It's what you put into it. And so, so he became a teacher. He taught fine art. And then he became a school counselor. And then he became, I think, an administrator. And then he became an assistant principal of a high school in New York City. I'm not going to give the names of the schools that he went to. And then one day he was offered a position as a principal of a major high school in New York City. if not the largest school in New York City. And the school was on probate, what they call probation, that if the school didn't do any better, they'd probably close down the school. It was an overwhelmingly black school, had blacks from, you know, excuse me, people whose ancestry from the South, and you have people from the Caribbean. It was considered the worst school in New York City. It was the largest school, if not the largest school. And so they needed someone to try to get the school around, get it on track. I remember when he got the job. I was very young. I was a teenager at the time. And then I remember he was under a lot of stress. I want to talk about the politics. Now, again, I didn't know a lot of what was going on, but in hindsight, as an adult now, some 40 years later, so I'm able to reflect on some of the things that what happened, when I remember what I was told. You had people. Now, the school system is a powerful system because it's a system of control. And people want to control your children. They want to control what they think, how they aspire, everything. And not everybody in the school system is about teaching and educating your student, your children. You have saboteurs. You have people who are just about, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of this, I'm going to just say it. They have the sentiment of the people that you see who hang around the Black Lives Matter movement that you see, those rioters. And you want to call them peaceful protesters, okay? I'm sure there are one or two people there who went there because they wanted to peacefully protest. But somehow it became a deluge of provocateurs, of people who destroy property, destroy your buildings, destroy your community. But they claim that they're about protecting the lives of black people, but yet they're killing people. So I don't understand how someone could be pro-life of the black race, but yet do the most harm to black people. See, yes, Black Lives Matter, but I don't like how they portray it. Okay? They're hypocrites, and they're provocateurs, and they're the true virus, in my opinion. That's just an opinion. It's ironic that we have this thing called corona virus, okay? And yet you have people who act like viruses, that they invade and then they destroy your health. They destroy your mind. And you have people like these BLM people who attach themselves to black schools, and they actually want them to fail. Okay? You had about 5,000 people, students in that school that's failing, and they get a black person for the school, but they didn't want him. Who did they want? I don't know who they wanted, but they did not want someone who is a teacher at heart and an administrator, and to destroy him. They destroyed his health because it was just fighting. You have people who belong to with the PTA, that's Parents Teachers Association, and they work in these organizations to fail you. They get involved in these organizations. I don't even know whether they even have kids in that school, but they're there. And they want to argue about everything. And they argued even about a painting that was on, and that's an old ass school. And they have original artwork in the school. And they were arguing, I heard, about a painting that they want this painting removed and put a black person's face on there. Okay? Now, you people, you think having a painting on the fucking wall, excuse my French, is going to transform those students to be able to read on grade level, math on grade level, graduate, and go to post-educational facilities, or maybe work and be qualified to go into entry-level jobs after high school graduation? You think a picture on a wall? Things like that to argue. They weren't about education. They were just about radicalism. You have the radical left that hibernate, and then they sizzle, and then they attack black communities and cause them destruction. But they want you to think that it's all white people. And I want to tell you, I didn't know that this talk was going to be about this, but I'm going with it. Again, I speak from my heart. You have people who are about destroying you, but they want you to think that every problem you have is because of white people. I faced a lot of racism especially when I graduated from high school and got a so-called real job. I saw it early. I didn't understand it, but I felt it. And I saw how they treated black people. And I saw how white people were treated. And I didn't like it. I wanted to aspire to greater things. And I saw that there was a complete distinction on where black people could work in New York City, in the private sector, especially when I first started out. The city jobs were heavily minorities, so-called minorities, and white women worked. Yeah, at one point they didn't want white women, even in certain jobs. So that was the haven for white people, white ladies. You work for the city, and blacks and other people of color work for the city. And that's where you generally stayed in. I wanted private sector. And it was hell. But either way, so I think back on this particular school. See, there's nothing wrong with the building. It's not the building. It's the people. It's the parents. Because their minds are not liberated. Their mind is encapsulated with failure in mind. They haven't aspired. And plus, in addition, so you can have parents that kind of off, but you can have teachers, administrators who are about the students. But you have politics. School system in New York is politics. because back then, 40 plus years ago, New York City was heavily Black American, or people with a Black identity. And they didn't want us to do well. So it kept a cap on us. It made us frustrated, and it made us fight each other. My elementary school, it was every day was a fight in the classroom. And primarily who was doing the physical fighting were the American blacks. And a lot of black females, American black females, were fighting all the time. They'd fight boys and other girls. That's what my exposure was. But back then, you did have a lot of West Indian. But back in the day, when I say West Indians, I really am focused on the Anglo-speaking, or I should say the English-speaking West Indians. I'm not really talking about the Spanish-speaking West Indian people. Okay? But back then, they were better behaved. Those kids, because they had mothers at home, that said, you better not mess up. See, they understood the value of education back in the West Indies because it was denied many of them. Because it was poor. So Caribbean is very poor. And so if they had an opportunity to go to school, they knew the value of it. And so when they came to the U.S., and they're very strict, usually it was a female-run household. Yes, sometimes they had the man, the father in the picture also, but they valued education, and they valued those teachers. But in the U.S. mindset, students were being taught to disrespect their teachers. And that is a major problem with schools in New York City. It was about disrespecting their parents, disrespecting the teachers. And I remember a student in classroom in the 7th grade, Black American student, and he said, oh, my mom told me not to act up in so-and-so's class because she's black, but to act up in the other teachers, white teachers. Now, I could gather that was not, he did not have a West Indian mom to slap him straight, but had an Black American mom who was angry, and rightly angry, about the racism. And this was right after, just a couple of years after Martin Luther King got assassinated. So a lot of American blacks were angry and became rebellious and never really regrouped. And then you had more and more immigration from the Caribbean, from all over the world, now competing for seats in the public schools and for jobs. And you just got passive. You just got passive, and you didn't perform. You lost all the motivation, and then you took it out through fighting. And what's sad is, you go to a black school in New York City, you're going to have problems. It became a symbol of problems. You want to get beat up, go to a black school. And I didn't understand it, but I felt it. When I was to enter high school, I was designated to go to an all-black high school, and it had its reputation. And I remember I said out loud, I was angry, and I said, if I have to go to that school, I would not go. And I think my father believed me. And he arranged for me to go to the school where my friends were going. And that school so happened to be one of the top schools um, of that time. And this was it wasn't a specialized school, it was a general school. Like some of the schools in New York City are specialized. Some schools specialize in art, some specialize in the sciences. This school I went to was a general, general studies. And it was considered one of the top, if not the top school in New York City. And is very integrated. It had kids from all over, like if you go like a mile radius from the school, that's the demographics it got from. So it was very, very integrated. And it had, if you wanted to learn, you can learn. So getting back to this school that my father worked in the politics, schools are not about educating your kids per se. It's about politics and who is going to thrive and who they want to die. They didn't want blacks to learn, but it's not so much. See, the problem of the black schools is, the black schools, this is essential. It's coming to my memory again. The essential thing here is what the black schools are generated for. It's generated to create special needs students. It's designed to generate special needs students, such as special ed. What do you mean? Oh, well, your black child has behavioral problems. Oh, he's attention deficit, such and such. He can't sit still in his chair. Oh, well, he may need that medication to chill him out. Oh, he can't read. So let's put him in this special class. And so the whole school becomes special ed. When you classify a kid as being special ed, they don't really have to learn anything. And it's more like a babysitting outlet. They go to school, they sit in a chair and act out. And they get money, extra money for each child that is in special education. And they even get teachers, special ed teachers, to keep them in there. It's a money-making scheme. You don't need a plantation to pick cotton. You just have a school and you classify those poor black children as special ed, and the money from the crop comes in. You continue to water and weed those fields of black children, and you only select the stupidest kids in that school to keep it special ed and to roll in that money. These big schools in New York City, black schools, make so much money for the school system, and the kids come out illiterate. Okay? School system in New York City is another form of a plantation for your black children. Oh, I'm not black, I'm Indian. Well, you know what I feel about that. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, my videos are designed to kind of wake you up, to make you aware from my perspective. And they're all different perspectives. You have a diamond and it has its different facets of truth. I'm sharing with you one perspective. that's not being addressed. I did a video about the black versus the Native American Indian. Even though when I show you proof of certain things, I'm verbally attacked. I looked at the video that I did, Black Americans who think they're Indian Challenge, I think it was called. And I looked at the number of thumbs up and thumbs down. And it's just one thumb down extra. So it's almost exactly 50-50. It's just one extra of the down. So basically, you have people who agree and half that don't agree. But I try to tell you, see, you want to run away from yourself. And you think by being a certain thing or creating a new identity for you is going to save you. No, by being truthful to yourself and your abilities and your lineage is a key to unleash all your potential. See, if you don't accept yourself, no one else is. And you're going to stay in those stupid special ed classes that's designed to keep you in there up to the age of 21 when they can legally have you leave the school. But in the meanwhile, you had stayed there and they extracted from you all this money and aid. Yeah, each child is worth an X amount of money. I don't know how much each one is worth, but it brings in money to the school. So it doesn't benefit the administrators to change it. But you have these black provocateurs who work in the Parent Teachers Association, and they're to intimidate, and they get their friends in. They get all their buddies in there, these fat ass women, nasty women, to just be bullied. See, they're bullied. Bullies bully others. So they're adults now, these parents, and they become their oppressors. So however how their parents treated them or their society, they're going to treat everybody else. So it's like a power thing with these savages that run your school system. But it's supposed to be about education. They don't want to change. They want to rebel, just like what you see out there in the all those rioting that you see with these BLM losers. Look at these freaks, these freakazoids. These are freakazoids that run your school systems, that prevent true education. They're taught, these parents teach their children to disrespect their teachers. When I was a student, and I in elementary school, like in the 5th grade, 4th and 5th grade, I say to myself now, thinking back, and a lot of them were white. Yeah, it's really interesting. I was in a black neighborhood, but you had mostly white teachers back then. This is the 1960s and 70s. All mostly white teachers. And I said to myself, wow, what made these teachers stay? I wouldn't have stayed. Some teachers really do care. They're teachers at heart. And if you don't think you black parents, if you feel a teacher is not about teaching your student, then you complain about that teacher. But don't go by race. You go by performance. Some teachers are excellent at what they do, but it's a lack of respect in this for teachers. And when you teach your children to disrespect authority, that's a problem. And that is a major problem in the Black community. See, it's a hierarchy of when you're in a learning situation or an initiate. You think when you go up the ladder, when you go into those fraternities, sororities, it's about hierarchy, and it's about obeying orders. And when that is not established, you're not going to have anything but chaos, because everyone wants to be the chief. And that, and as I said, everyone wants to be an Indian too. That's another problem. But be as it may, you have people, and when you have people and students who are taught by their parents, the welfare queen mom, who again is prostituting herself and having all these illegitimate children so they can get money, and she's not thinking community. She is the death of her community. She is the death between her child getting an education, because now she wants to classify her kid, welfare queen mom, and get her son in particular diagnosed as having attention deficit disorder, put him on Ritalin, which is going to make him crazy, okay, because that's a strong chemical, and they're giving it to your sons primarily, and it doesn't go well with him, and she gets money. She gets extra money if she gets a kid classified as having a learning disability as a way to suck money. And these are the type of trash that is living in your neighborhood, that is in your school system, and is causing social decay in our Black neighborhoods. But you don't want to talk about it. You're all being selfish, and you just want to get your nails and hair done, but you don't want to educate your kids. You don't want to expose them to different things, the arts. You have people who come all over the world to New York City in the summertime and enjoy going to the museums, the parks, but you don't do that. And it's for free for you. There's some free activities you could go to, but then they want to make you think that, oh, I'm deprived and I'm just a poor Black kid living in New York City. There's a lot of free things you can do in New York City, or inexpensive things. See, because you think like a pauper, because you don't want to work towards your goal. And part of the reason why you don't want to work towards your goal, and part of it is a good excuse. Yes, it is racism. There was no more racism back in my father's day. Less racism in my father's day. Racism was racism. But back in my father's day, what students had back then was personal discipline and respect for their teachers. And as you look on a lot of YouTube videos, and you have what you call the conscious community, you fight each other, especially the men. You fight each other because you want to prove, you want what you call debating. And so you debate, and name call each other. But there's no advancement in the community. So you rather debate rather than working together, working with one mindset. When you have a common goal and achieve it, it's attainable. But when you want to nitpick who built the pyramids and how black somebody is, that is not the argument. The argument is how are we going to um, focus and what our aim should be for the advancement of the people. So, as I said in the very beginning about when my father worked in that school, one of the largest schools, a high school, and a parent was talking about a painting on the wall, is that something that really should be focused on? That's something that was there before any of them was even born. And even, it's not going to help you. I've been in churches in East Harlem. It was one of the poorest neighborhoods in Manhattan. It was disheveled, Povertyville. And I don't remember the name of the church. It was just a handful of people. And he had pictures on the wall of all these black people. And nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But the students were ignorant. They had children who were from the neighborhood. There were about, how many of them? It was just a handful. Oh, I remember one. There was at least one kid, a boy. And there was a girl too. I remember, boy, girl. And then there was the co-pastor's kids. The co-pastor's kid were brilliant. Okay, but the neighborhood, they lived right next door to the church. The mother was a crack addict, and the mother allowed the kids to go to the church. Okay, but they had an overseer there, this black woman, who was a real creature. The children had come in there was I think a service or something, and they were to go into the classroom, and the chairs were set on top of, like when you go to elementary school, the chairs are put up on top of the table, and the kids took the chairs and put it down so I could sit down. So this witch comes in and starts yelling at the children. It's only about maybe 6 kids. And start yelling at them horribly. So I interjected to the woman. I said, excuse me, the children were putting down the chairs so that I could sit down. Did she apologize to those kids? No. Be careful, black people, or anybody who's listened to this video. Be careful of the creatures that you have. I mean, the people that are watching over your kids. There could be creatures who are there to destroy your children, even in the churches. They hibernate in places that are very common. So they're in your churches, they're in your schools. They're all over. And they are there to pull your children down. So they had, so with the point of, with this school, this church, so they put down the chairs to the floor so we could sit down and everything. They were really well-behaved kids. And then one of the kids, the child, he was 10 years old, 10 or 11, and his sneaker was, he had clean clothes on, clean sneakers, but his shoes were untied. So the pastor, was a black man, sees that the shoelace is untied. Say, hey, why don't you tie your shoelaces? So the little girl there, the daughter of the co-pastor, says, oh, he doesn't know how to tie his shoelaces. And he looked dumbfounded. He said, well, why don't someone teach him how to tie his shoelaces? Now, this pastor, he had a type of knowledge, but he's sabotaging himself. He is equipped. Him growing up, he said all the money that was coming into the black neighborhood, that he benefited from. They said back then, after all the riots in the 1970s, they were giving out money to primarily the black churches and had programs. And he benefited from them. Yep, he talked about that. So here he's in a position to help. He's on a low scale, meaning he only has maybe four children that's not from the co-pastor, and then the adults are elderly adults. There might have been 5 elderly adults, and that's his whole church. Okay, that's it. But he can't handle four kids. There was maximum 4 kids that were not of the co-pastor, and he cannot handle that. He didn't see to himself that he should teach that child how to tie this shoelace. But they want to put a picture on a wall of black people, but not educating. Education is not about having a photograph on the wall. It's about taking action and step, and to be aware of where your people are. See, awareness would have said, oh, why is his shoelace always untied? Hey, this is an opportunity to educate. Education. Okay? So many of us are in positions to help, but we don't. I could go on about that pastor, and I had liked him, but I was there briefly, and I saw a lot of things. I said, wow, self-sabotage. He had a good heart, but burnout. And I did discuss him before in the past. Yeah, who runs that church are white people, though, who control him, and there was an argument. Well, he was arguing with them, and those 2 white dudes, they just sat there, said absolutely nothing. They were in the front row. They sat right next to me, actually. And he was having a yelling at them. And they just stood their ground. They didn't say one damn thing. You have white people who start churches in black neighborhoods and control them. He controlled the pastor. And why they kept the church there, I think maybe as spies. One of them looked like, I'm not going to even say what he looked like, the white dude. My instincts say what he is. It's the same type of people that set up the NAACP. The NAACP wasn't started by a black person. Just an FYI. It's the same type of people that formed that organization, that formed that church. And they set them up, and I speculate now that they're spies to put the churches up so they can eavesdrop, so they can know what's going on, so that if there is another savior in the black community, they're going to kill them. So I hope the right person in our black community hears this and takes action, okay? See, knowledge is a tool for you to use to elevate yourself. If you don't use it, it stays stagnant. Nothing happens. So you have a school system, and again, you have churches, and they destroy you, but they're getting a lot of money off of you. You generate more money than any community in the United States of America, in my opinion, because you're bringing in the money with these special ed programs, and these school systems are crowded, more crowded than the white schools in general, right? We have more children in general. And then they're also making more money off of us because those black women that have abortions. We have the most abortions. You don't wonder what they do with those babies? They sell them. They use it for makeup. They use babies. You don't think they're doing magic with the blood? With the placenta? You don't think that they're doing that? You foolish woman. Yeah, you make a lot of money for people. So they're making money off of you. You are a resource. And what I hope in all this, what I'm saying is the message is you are a resource to many people but yourself. Learn how to tap onto your own resources, your own body. Your labor belongs to you, and the fruits of your labor belong to you. Start tapping into it. Start respecting your leaders, the leaders in your school, the teachers. You have to respect your teacher. If you don't, you will never, because see, it's all based on principles, people. Principles. The principle is you don't have to like somebody. You don't. But there's a principle. And it's a test too, people. The test isn't how well you like your teacher. The test is to be able to receive enough, because respect means that you're now saying, I receive information and knowledge. Once you pass that level, then you go on to other levels. They don't give you it all at once. If you don't prove that you value education, you won't get it. And that was one of the lies that these Parents Teachers Association, they usually teach you not to respect the teacher because of their race. If you really feel that way, you stay at home. Have your kids stay at home and you homeschool them. So you have a whole big school that collapsed, basically. You had someone who wanted to teach, and they are teachers. They are an administrator. But you're preoccupied with a painting on the wall, an original painting on the wall that was there before any of those people were born, probably. It was an old school. What happened to all those kids? What happened? They're too busy wanting to be something that they're not. They don't educate themselves about diet. What's happening? Who's the fattest in the school system? Who's the fattest? Who's dying the fastest because of ill health? You folks. But see, awareness of these things can change your life. And so you say, I know I'm a lot of things, but I make a decision today to say no more foolishness. I'm going to respect authority, and I'm going to be an authority once I learn and educate myself, and that I could become a leader in my community and teach us to be able to take care of ourselves, take care of our health, and take care of our own educational system that you decide as a community. I know we can do it. And being the Democrat, many of you belong to the Democratic plantation mentality. It used to be something a little better, but now it's gone renegade, and they're out to kill you, just like those women, like the woman in the church I talked to you about. Yeah, it changed. things change, and it changed for the worse, and they're out to get you, and they're using you. Get out from that old system. Get out, get out, get out. There's hope around the corner for you. Start thinking for yourself. Start developing yourself. Start looking in the mirror and say, I love you, mirror. I love the image that I see in the mirror. I see hope in a future for me, my family, and my community. I thank you for listening. And yes, there is hope around the corner. Let's take care of ourselves and move forward in America. And yes, God bless America. This is my home, sweet home. Okay? Take care, guys. And God bless you. Or I should say, may the Creator bless you. Bye-bye.